again in the media center for this press conference being addressed by the leadership of the political parties. And what is going to happen is that Mr. Douglas Monjora is going to read the statement that is going to be signed by all the leaders. It's a joint statement on independence. Once it has been read, I think you will be given an opportunity to ask a question. So, Mr. Monjora.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Before I read the statement on behalf of the leadership, I would like to give Dr. Makoni just a few minutes to give the background to what is happening today.
Thank you, SG, colleagues, and Zengi. First, tinotenda nekutipa mukana kushandira muno mushameni. On behalf of my colleagues, I also want to thank you all very much for coming in such short notice. I believe the communication went out not more than 2 hours ago, so your presence signals a level of commitment that we want to appreciate. We have been consulting about the anniversary of our independence that's coming tomorrow, and a number of us agreed that it would be appropriate for us to reflect on this important national occasion together. Because we were all going to issue messages about our independence. And we felt that it would be weightier and closer to the extent that the leaders of the organizations represented here themselves represent the largest majority of Zimbabwean citizens, that our reflection on independence is joint and collective. So the reflections that Douglas will share are what we feel as the collective of leaders of parties that are not in government, is the significance, relevance of the 35th anniversary of independence. I just thought I share with you the background, the consultations that culminated in our being here together this afternoon. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will proceed to read the joint statement by the leaders. Tomorrow we commemorate the 35th anniversary of our national independence. We in the political leadership urge all people of Zimbabwe to take time to reflect on the brutal struggle in which patriotic sons and daughters of this country paid the ultimate price to secure political independence. Indeed, our prosecution of the armed struggle for liberation shows that the Zimbabweans are a heroic people, a committed people, prepared to water the sacred garden of independence and freedom with their own blood. As the cooperative of political leaders, we are proud of that part of our history, and we cherish the great sacrifice made by the Zimbabweans to fight oppression and attain political independence. Even as we wage the new war for true democracy and basic freedoms, we stand on the soldiers of the patriotic sons and daughters who perished and lost life and limb so that the dreams and aspirations of future generations will be realized. We wish to comment on the betrayal of the people's struggle. The tragedy of our liberation is that the only political independence came without the basic freedoms that many had fought and died for. Basic freedoms of speech, association and assembly, and even one person, one vote, have been and are still being seriously betrayed by the new ZANU-PF administration after the attainment of independence. The colonial political administration was replaced by an equally oppressive indigenous administration allergic to difference and freedom of political thought and practice. While in colonial Rhodesia, your skin color mattered, in Zimbabwe under ZANU-PF, it is your political card that matters. The culture of chefdom quickly substituted the bus culture that was the hallmark of the colonial administration. While there were notable gains in health, education, and social services in the early years of independence, we have seen the erosion of all the gains by the new culture of misgovernance, incompetence, clientelism, and patronage. In short, the ZANU-PF has betrayed the values and essence of the liberation struggle, with the thousands of war veterans being targets for sustained political attack, victimization, exclusion, and wanton physical and psychological violence. The spirit of liberation has been betrayed. Some of our former liberators have become our tormentors, while we in political leadership have taken up the new national mandate to complete the unfinished business of the liberation struggle. We wish to comment again on completing the unfinished business of the liberation struggle. We are leaders of the post-liberation political discourse that pledges to complete the people's struggle by attaining true individual freedoms and the prosperity of our citizens. As evidenced by the era of the inclusive government, Zimbabweans appreciate the opposition's capacity to lead and serve the people. Our commitment to good governance was seen in our successful push for a new democratic constitution, where the Zimbabweans made a new charter for themselves, expressing how they want to be governed. All the basic freedoms that the people fought for, which had been emasculated by ZANU-PF over the years, are now enshrined in our constitution, written by the Zimbabweans themselves. This must have been the true meaning of independence, the sovereign right of the people to determine how they want to be governed. Over the 3 million Zimbabweans voted for this new charter in May 2013. The tragedy, however, is that ZANU-PF regime is standing in the way of the implementation of the sovereign will of the people, as expressed in the constitution that the people wrote for themselves. ZANU-PF as a regime of impediment and repression is refusing to implement the constitution and even threatening to amend it or through its stolen majority in parliament. Zimbabweans must say no to this brazen threat by the regime of thugs and kleptocrats. Zimbabweans who fought for freedom from white minority rule must fight for the implementation of their constitution and for the economic upliftment, social harmony and cohesion, and freedom from fear. In conclusion, this Independence Day is a proper time to resolve to chart a new course better than the ruinous ZANU-PF path. It is time to reflect on whether we toiled or fought for our country so as to live in this sorry state, and to reflect on whether we fought for the vote so that it could be stolen, as reflected in the consistent subversion of the people's will since 2000. You look at all those millions on the street side in our cities, towns and villages, venting to eke out a living for their families, and you ask yourself, is this real independence? Millions of our children are all over the world in search of opportunity. Again, is this real independence? Did we fight for the freedom to flee our country and seek asylum in the diaspora? The freedom fighters themselves, ex-detainees, our mothers, our fathers, Mujibas and Chimbwidos, and all those who helped in cash and kind during the liberation struggle still have the lingering question, is this the independence we were yearning for? The question remains unanswered. Did we fight for the freedom to flee our country and become victims of xenophobic attacks in neighboring countries? All those thousands who were brutally murdered, the women who were raped and abused, did they fight for freedom in order to be abused? All those Zimbabweans suffering and wondering where the proceeds of their country's diamonds and other minerals are going, did they fight the whole war to benefit a few top echelons of ZANU-PF regime? Did we fight so that our children could seek education and health care in ill-funded and ill-equipped hospitals and schools, while the chefs use our taxes to fund their treatment and education of their children abroad? As we reflect on our struggle as a people and the current dilapidated state of our national physical assets, the hardships endured every day by the majority of Zimbabweans, we must certainly conclude that the new liberation is beckoning. Just as we fought a brutal, protracted struggle against the white minority repression, so too must we be ready to redeem ourselves from the current penury, poverty, deprivation inflicted upon us by our own kith and kin. Independence is not enough without the freedoms and prosperity, and we must be ready to pay the ultimate price once again to save ourselves. Oh yes, we are a heroic people, and we must liberate ourselves once again. We wish that Independence Day be a peaceful day for all Zimbabwean people. God bless Zimbabwe. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. I think we open up maybe for questions. I think questions can be asked regarding the statement or any other issues I think that we may deem relevant as journalists. So
maybe we need to make our colleagues know who this statement represents. You all recognize President Changirai, no doubt. I'm Simba Makoni, MKD. Mr. Noko is representing President Dabengwa of ZAPU, and Mr. Chiwasa is representing Dr. Professor Maduku of the NCA. This statement is on behalf of those four organizations, the leaders of those four organizations. Thank you.
yeah, thank you. So I think that further enlightened us on around questions that we may want to ask. Because when we told the people about this, they were asking whether this is the announcement of the Liberation Front, the joint opposition movement for 2018. So now I think they will take questions maybe in batches. Maybe I can see Chief. There is one. That's the first question. I don't see another end. Yeah, maybe you can ask your question, Chief.
Thank you very much. My name is Byron Mutinga and I'm a freelance journalist. My question applies to everyone from the leaders of the opposition parties here. There's a general feeling from citizens that the opposition parties are letting them down by not tackling the ruling party. What is your comment on that?
Okay, there is another question.
My name is Polisani Mule. I'm a freelance journalist. I want to find out, could this be an initiation of a bigger coalition for 2018? And then also, are the parties going to attend the national celebration for the 35th independence being led by government?
Okay, there's another one, yeah?
Yeah, my question is directed to the MDC leader, President Changirai. In the statement, he said that we must liberate ourselves. And I just want to know how you think Zimbabweans, not in the ruling party, are going to liberate themselves, considering that as a party they are not partaking in the constitutional means, maybe elections, like by-elections and so forth, and very soon you might be losing quite a number of seats in parliament. How are you going to liberate yourself?
Okay. the fourth question.
Thank you. My name is Richard Chiz. I'm a freelance journalist. In your statement, you say Zimbabweans must be ready to pay the ultimate sacrifice again. Is it a call to arms for Zimbabweans against the ruling party? Or really, maybe if you can clarify on that one, what is it?
Okay, maybe let me allow them to answer those 4 questions.
Would you like to tackle?
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
The first question is, the opposition parties are not tackling ZANU-PF. I believe we are addressing the yearnings of the people for peace, for stability, for upliftment, social harmony, for the removal of fear. The methods which we are using are broadly of political organization and political mobilization and public communication. Whether you deem that as not sufficient in tackling ZANU-PF is a matter of judgment. But we judge that the methods of mobilizing the people, including this event of communicating with the people, is part of the efforts for tackling the difficulties that the people are confronting.
I suppose that your question reflects the despair and the despondence that sometimes people who have been involved in a struggle and they don't seem to see an end to that struggle and their suffering. That's the reflection of your question. My answer to it is that there is no time frame of a struggle. Some of us, all of us here have been in the trenches for democratic struggle. We are not in the trenches for armed struggle. We are in these trenches in creating a democratic society which is based on the rule of law, stability, and the respect of individuals. That's different from an armed struggle. And we've always resisted the call to arms because it's not necessary. We are an independent country, and if we have to sort out our problems in order to create the conditions that will respect the rights of Zimbabwe, that's why we fought for a new constitution. It's because we believe in the democratic end. And it is in that manner, given the circumstances of ZANU-PF's default mode of violence, coercion, and intimidation, that we have chosen the democratic struggle. We know the impediments, but we are also aware that this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. It's not going to come on a silver platter. We have, and I think Zimbabweans can bear testimony to the suffering they've done in tackling ZANU-PF. It has not been an easy way. People have paid their ultimate price. We have dead people, where people have been raped, houses burned over the last 15 years or so years. So that is the testimony of tackling ZANU-PF. But with the clear objective that we want a democratic, stable Zimbabwe and peaceful Zimbabwe.
Okay, maybe Comrade Meda.
Okay, I think, yeah, okay, I will just answer the 2 questions, but is rightfully answered by President here that where we're saying that we are ready to liberate ourselves and that we are ready to pay the ultimate sacrifice. What we're simply saying is what President Shangri was explaining, that in a democratic struggle, obviously against a tyrant, we end up losing lives, will face all sort of intimidations from the despots in power. So that's what we're saying, that we realize that this democratic struggle that we're embarking on, it also have its own consequences, of course, dealing with the caliber of ZANU-PF. We are only lucky to be surviving after opposing it. Then the other question about attending the celebrations, I think you agree with me that this press conference will be the best celebration that Zimbabweans will be looking for. We don't need to go before ZANU-PF. We are actually here to show you that we can celebrate independence in a very different form. It does not mean to say that if we go and listen to President Mugabe hallucinating there, then it means that we have celebrated independence. I think we've already celebrated independence through this press conference. I think that's what I can answer for now.
During the inclusive government, we used to attend Independence Day celebrations. And we watched in horror those so-called celebrations being turned into a ZANU-PF chanting slogans and demeaning some of us who were present. So if you say that attending, like Chiwaza said, attending that kind of a platform where you are being humiliated and taken as if you are an outsider, even when you are Prime Minister of a country, I would not attend such an occasion. But I urge Zimbabweans in their various forms to celebrate 35 years of independence.
A broader coalition? No, not yet. This is just an initiation of what we perceive as a fight for democratic space. And as such, where we feel we need to make the noise, where we feel we need to shout, we will do that, especially in the fight against ZANU-PF. This is only a reflection of more things to come. There are certain issues that need to be tackled before people can come up with an agreement. And as such, we are saying, let us look at these things as all opposition parties, not only as one opposition party. So this is a start of bigger things to come, but not generally a bigger coalition. It will come when the time is right, but this is time to start a process.
Indeed, on that particular note, when people are talking about a converging position, this is a reflection of the national convergence across the political divide. Correct. We have different political organizations that are converging on the need to draw their attention that we are conscious of the appeal by Zimbabweans for us to work together for the good of the country. And I think that this is a reflection of that intention, that the leadership is not being selfish by saying, I've got my little organization, someone a little organization, but we are saying there is more that unites us. There are so many benchmarks that unite us. And one of the things that has been highlighted in that is the issue of implementation of the national constitution. I think across all the political divide, we all commit ourselves to ensure that the constitution is implemented. There are so many other benchmarks that we agree. And one of the things I think we should be celebrated is coming together and articulating the vision that all the political parties are committed to a governance that we can all accept.
I think it is important to recall that this is not the first time that those of us on this side of the table have worked together. In case you may not recall, in May of 2013, 5 leaders came together and agreed on common action in respect of the position presenting itself at that time at the SADC summit. And we explained then and reaffirm now, where there is a common purpose that enjoins us, we will not hesitate to work together. In July of 2013, we had occasion again to work together. 2 sets of leadership in the election campaign. This time, we are coming together in reflecting on the meaning of our independence with the majority of our people, because we have a convergence on the form, content, and nature of that reflection. So I want to affirm that as and when, without limit, common purpose and common effort presents itself, these leaders before you will not hesitate to work together. I also echo President Tsvangirai's intimation. We are aware of the yearning for common action among the people of Zimbabwe. And we, the leaders, hear and take heed of the direction that the people want us to take.
There is the question that you have asked about participation in the by-elections. What is the import of your question? Can you repeat it again?
I was saying that in the statement you said that you need to liberate yourselves. And how are you going to do that if you are not participating in certain democratic processes like elections, especially the by-elections which are forthcoming now?
Okay. Do you think that participating in 14 by-elections is liberating yourself? We have made an assessment that as long as there is a conduct of elections, the way election management is being carried out in this country, it will neither create democratic space nor will it liberate the people of Zimbabwe. My understanding is that an election is a contestation, that the contest must be equal to all players. In this case, we have actually recognized that we are legitimizing the fraud and the fraudulent activities of ZANU-PF. I understand there are people who have been saying that, the MDC participated in the 2013 election against the advice of SADC, against the advice of some of the people in the country. Far from it. SADC did not advise us in any manner or form not to participate. In fact, they went along, they acquiesced with the push by Mugabe to have an election in spite of absence of reforms. All we are saying, level the playing field, we will participate. Continue on this fraud and illegitimate actions, we will not endorse that. So, come to the liberation of the people of Zimbabwe, there are so many forms and manners in which we will have to tackle. One of the things that we are going to tackle is to campaign for free and fair election for reforms. Is to tackle for people, government abducting people without knowing where people have gone. These are the struggles that we should all engage in. And it means that if it calls for action for all of us, that's how we're going to liberate ourselves. The fallacy of believing that somebody is going to liberate us from the tyrant is long gone.
Okay, maybe we take another round. Moses, the chief.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, do we have another question? I don't seem to see. Yeah. Byron, another take. Any further question? So maybe we can take these two in the meanwhile. Yeah,
I see the spirit to bring as many voices as possible is quite very evident, considering the panel that we are seeing here. But there is a group that is conspicuous by its absence, which in this case is the other MDC version, which is the UMDC, and maybe the Gamma Talks version of ZANU-PF. Has there been some attempt of sorts to reach out to that group so that they can also be represented here? Or this is a sign that you don't recognize them whatsoever? Dr. Makon at some point was approached by the group and he sort of like declined to be associated with that group. But he was evidently ready to be associated with this particular group. So I'm just trying to make head or tail here. If there was some attempt to reach out to this group, and maybe my second question, Mr. Tsvangirai, yes, you are boycotting, then what? Because we seem to be hearing so much about boycotting and less about what you are going to do after boycotting. Do you think those strategies are effective?
May we know you?
Maybe you may introduce yourself.
Okay, Nkosana, freelance journalist.
Yeah.
You have another one?
Yeah, we had two.
No, I think let's answer those.
Yeah, maybe they want to attend to the.
Yeah, let's attend. We are still.
Yeah.
Let me say that when the consultation towards this event started, it excluded no one. The final outcome is those who agreed to participate are here before you.